Let's open this up. Hi artists, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Margot and I'm a professional commercial artist. And if you're new to my channel and you're wondering why I have a baby strapped to my chest for this unboxing, it's because I actually just had a baby in November, my second child. And so she's gonna be assisting us for this little unboxing journey, adventure that we're going on. And so every year I like to restock on supplies and go shopping. So basically every year around February, March, I like to replenish my art supplies that I've used up last year. But also I like to explore and see what else is out on the market and try out some different things that I have never used before, that I've seen trending online, other artists using, that kind of thing. And this year I have 3 boxes to open up, which we're going to do together, and I'm really excited for that. One from Amazon, one from Blick, and one from my Etsy seller, who is called Meow Cafe. Cafe Meow. I don't know. I'm going to put it in the description below if you're interested. So without further ado, let's jump right in and open up our first box, which is from, try not to fall off this chair with the baby, from Blick. So let's grab this and try not to hurt anybody. And I always get super excited around this time of year when I get all of my my refills and new things that I'm really excited to discover and to try out. So here we go. Pull this up. So first of all, I ordered refills of 2 of my favorite types of pencils. I've got, my favorite type of pencil is from Staedtler. So I ordered both an HB as well as a 7B. So these ones, the 7B I use for tracing and doing my, when I'm transferring drawings from my sketchbook to my main watercolor block. I'll use that. And this is just a regular drawing pencil, and Staedtler is my favorite. So then I have some new brushes that I have been really looking forward to trying. Not that I don't like the brushes that I have right now, but I'm always on the lookout for things that are going to do a job better than what I'm used to. So this brush right here is from Princeton, and this is from their Umbria line. And if I'm not mistaken, this one has a little bit of a stiffer bristle than the Aqua Elite, which is my favorite brush from them. But sometimes, especially when you're doing detail work, you want your bristles to be a little bit harder, so that you can really get into those details and the brush isn't bouncing around as much, or the bristles of the brush aren't bouncing as much. Then I have this, which I saw somebody using on Instagram, which is what you call a striper, but it's also known as a dagger brush because it looks like a dagger. So this is really great for petals of a flower, foliage, that kind of thing. But I'm excited to see what I can do with a shape like this, which I've never tried before. So you get both that really pinpoint sharp tip, but then also this sort of gradated or angled kind of tip. And it's a little bit longer, which leads me to think that maybe it has a little bit more steadiness to it, kind of like a liner. And then this little guy right here is a synthetic, basically a Taklon brush. And I use Taklons a lot for gouache as well as for detail work. And so with gouache, I don't like to mix my regular brushes with my gouache brushes. I like to keep them separate. And Taklon actually for gouache is an excellent type of brush because it is a little bit harder and just holds the gouache without letting it get too watery, which is something that I look for in these types of brushes. Okay, so then that is the brushes and the pencils. Then we have paint, and I think I only ordered 1 refill because we'll get to paints in a second. For paints, I just refilled, 2. I refilled on 2 from Winsor Newton, which are 2 of my favorites. I've got Winsor Blue Green shade as well as Winsor Blue Red shade. And I speak a lot about Winsor Blue Red shade in another video that I did about my top 10 Winsor Newton colors. And so if you want to know the best Winsor Newton colors there are out there, then I would definitely recommend checking out that video, which I'll link in the box up here. All right, so that's the paints. And these are both watercolors, by the way, watercolor paints. And then, so I have, I love my Winsor & Newton and my Daniel Smith and some of my Senneliers, but not so much lately, but we'll get to that again, like I said, in a second. But I'm always on the lookout for new materials that I might potentially fall in love with, because I think there's so much out there, and there's so many different ways that an entire range of paints or a couple of colors could really just change the outcome of your work if you find something that you fall in love with. So with that said, I ordered 2 dot cards from Blick. One of them from Van Gogh, actually, technically. Let's get this out of the way. Because I wanted to explore their range of colors, and one from Schminke. And I have a couple, or I used to have a couple of colors from Schminke, but it's not a paint that I reach for quite often. So I wanted to just see what their entire range was like. And so if you're not familiar with what these dot cards look like, it's essentially these pieces of paper where the manufacturer squeezes out some dots of paint onto the cards so that you can swatch the paints and experiment with them so that you can see whether or not you like them, whether you want to commit to a full tube. And so they look basically like this. What you do is you just wet your, wow, this is interesting. It's kind of like a plasticky material. So yeah, so what you do is you wet your brush and you can create your own little gradients here, your little washes of color, so you can see how that differs between like a very watered down version and what is known as the mass stone, the most opaque iteration, basically straight out of the tube from each respective color. So I have one of these from Schminke, and then I have one from Van Gogh. And I used to call him Van Gogh like everybody else, but then I was at a museum in Massachusetts where they had a special collective that they were showcasing, and I was corrected very embarrassingly by a tour guide, and was like, no, it's Van Gogh. So I just, I decided from then on, I'm going to call him what he's known as in Dutch, which is Van Gogh. And this is the range of paints from that collection. And this is, I believe, is the entire range of paints from Van Gogh. So that is it from Blick. Now we have, the next one that we have are my 2 palettes from, she's bobbing around. She has no idea. Okay, so now these are the 2 custom palettes I was telling you about, which are both made from a seller on Etsy, and I'm going to link that seller below so you can check out their custom palettes. But essentially what they do, that seller, is that they take the entire range of colors from a specific brand and they squeeze out tubes into these very small pans, and you can select exactly how small you want them to be. So it could be a half pan, it could be a quarter pan, it could be smaller than that even. And I chose the smallest of that range. And this is basically going to be a little bit more of a generously sized version of these dot cards. And so I did that for 2 brands. I did that for my Mary Blue watercolors and for Sennelier watercolors. And I actually have a Sennelier I have a Sennelier watercolor pan collection. Not the hugest fan of their pan collection, but I do have a couple of their full tubes, which I am much more impressed by. And so I wanted to see what the rest of their tube formulation series was like. So this right here is the pan, the custom pan of all of the Sennelier colors. So this is the entire range of, I believe it's 90 colors, and you'll see they're the cutest little mini pans. And so this is every single color that they have that is squeezed out from tube formats. If you're familiar and you like the way that the tubes of Sennelier are, and you want to try other colors in their collection, and you want to get a feel for the entire range, this is from the tube. Okay, then we have the same idea, these small pans, and except this time it's from my Mary Blue. And I saw this from a bunch of different YouTubers who were talking about how amazing and how creamy the formulation of my Mary is. And this is an Italian brand of watercolors. So I'm very, very excited to dig into these, to try them out. And this is it's funny because it looks really small, but it's deceptive because especially with professional grade watercolors. You really don't need a whole lot of something unless you're doing, a lot of, or using a lot of that color, or doing a very, very large painting. So both of these I'm excited to try out. And let me know in the comments below if you are interested in any of these and seeing me swatch out either some of them, all of them, a combination of them, the warms, the cools. I'm here to help you discover some of these materials and some of these supplies for yourselves. So, let me know what you're interested in seeing. And I always love a good swatching session, so you can always count me in. So again, we have Sennelier, we have My Merry Blue, we have Van Gogh, we have Schminke. And all of these are going to be Margot's great 2023 new watercolor paint supply journey, exploration. I don't know what we're going to call it, but I'm super excited to dig into these and to see what I'm missing out on, because I'm sure between all of this that there's going to be some gems and things that are impressive in their own right. So next up we have a box from Amazon. Let's open this baby. And essentially everything that I bought from Amazon was stuff that I wasn't able to get either on Blick, which is where I typically order everything. So whether that was out of stock or things that are not typically sold there. Though I think all of this normally is sold there. I think it was just because it was at the beginning of the year. A lot of things were out of stock, so I ended up buying them on Amazon instead. So first of all, I restocked on my favorite purple. This is Winsor & Newton's Dioxazine Violet, which is my favorite violet. I absolutely love this. And then as far as the papers go, I have 3 papers. I have one from Strathmore, which is the Strathmore Bristol, which is what I use for all of my gouache paintings. This is from the 300 series, which is a very smooth, this is the smooth version because they have two versions of the paper. They have a smooth and they have a vellum. And I chose the smooth because I like, especially for my gouache paintings that are very, very graphic and flat, I like those to be on a very smooth paper because it scans much easier. And I just think that it works really well for what I'm looking to do. Then I have Canson's Montval watercolor paper, which is a pad of watercolor paper. And I forget if this is student grade or if this is a professional grade, but I don't use this for end clients. I use this for watercolor drills, practice. And sometimes if I'm doing, for example, here on YouTube, if I'm doing swatching sessions, that kind of thing, I use this paper. Although if you are a beginner and you're looking for a good quality watercolor paper to experiment on, I think that this is a terrific choice because it is inexpensive, but also of a good quality enough for you to be able to get a sense of, what it's like to work with watercolors on a good quality paper. So like I said, this is Montval, and this is 12 sheets at 140 pound, 300 grams. Technical information, not sure if anyone cares about this, but I thought I would mention it anyway. And the last thing on my list is Saunders Waterford paper. And this one I haven't used in quite some time just because it is very, very expensive. And I typically use Arches or nowadays Bao Hong Academy paper. And both of those suit my purposes really well. But I saw this and I was like, you know what, I should revisit this because I remember it being a terrific quality paper and loving it. It was just very, very costly, to be honest. And it used to be less expensive than Arches, but nowadays I think, and I'm not sure exactly why, the prices have gone up. So I don't know exactly why I'm revisiting this because it's going to be very expensive if I like it. And let me open it up so we can check out what the texture of this paper is like. And yeah, I do remember it being a lot smoother than Arches cold press paper, which is something that I really like. I tend to gravitate personally, this is a personal preference, this is not a right or wrong thing. I prefer a surface that is smoother, it just works better with my subject matter and what I'm looking to paint. And this has a really nice balance between having the features that you like from a cold press paper, meaning its absorbency and how it reacts, or how the surface reacts with your watercolors, and having a very minimal grain or texture, which again is something that I look for. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments below if you're interested in seeing me swatch any of these palettes, if you're interested in seeing any of these supplies in action, or in the wild as I like to call it. And yeah, maybe I can try to implement those in the next couple of videos. As always, thank you so much for watching and for joining me, and I will see you next time.